what you can capture in a still picture is frozen emotion. And so what I try to do is look for eye contact, look for people that are engaged with each other in some way, and just kind of be the fly on the wall and capture those moments. That's what I think that's what the real heart of my passion gets to, is being able to tell people's stories through their emotional connections. But my talent, my passion is to really find the real moments, to look into people's eyes and to let you look into people's eyes and really feel their emotions, because I think that's a true way we can connect with other people through still photography. There's a little phrase that Robert Capa, who was a very famous war photographer, said, that if your pictures aren't good enough, you're not close enough. And what he meant was that if you are not emotionally connected to the scene that you're in, if you're not engaged, if you're not fully engaged in what is in front of you, in other words, not just physically close, but emotionally close to what you're witnessing, then you're not going to be the storyteller that you could be. The very first courses I took at Western was a basic reporting course and the basic photojournalism course with Dave LaBelle. That was it. I sat in on that very first lecture. I have a distinct memory of that first class, of my first photo class with Dave LaBelle, and he showed his pictures, and it blew me away. The photography had me at hello. I was hooked. And our very first assignment, this is very traditional, a big tradition at Western, was to photograph an egg. And so I went, and my dad even kind of helped me because he was kind of excited I was taking this class, and he was like, okay, let's get your picture done. And I took this picture of this egg, and it got first place in class. And I'm like, I'm on my way. I am on my way. This is so cool. I had so much fun. And it was just an egg, but I was so pumped up for this. And so at that point, I just started absorbing what he had to say and looking at his images a little bit different every class, and realizing that it wasn't just, you know, me being wowed. I was being wowed because there was an emotional connection there.
Any time that things like that happen?
Trust is probably the most hard to teach part of what we do as photojournalists, but it's probably one of the most important aspects of being a storyteller, of being a photojournalist. Of all the kinds of different stories that I have done, whether it be going into Cuba and meeting someone for basically having an encounter with them for just an hour or less, or whether it be spending a very long time with a family on a project I did with kids in divorce. In both of those extremes, trust is very important. And I think when you approach people that this is a collaborative effort, that what I'm doing and what you are contributing to me, you know, we're in this together, that naturally, usually, grows trust between the two of us, and we go from there. And sometimes it works really great, and sometimes, you know, it doesn't go very far. A National Geographic editor and a mentor of mine gave me advice when I went over there, and he said, be careful, because you're going to be so distracted by so many things happening. There are so many stories to tell in Cuba that you're going to forget your mission. So I really tried to stick to my guns and tell the story of people that were living their lives in their doorways. And we ended up calling the project The Doorways of Old Havana. It was life in your own backyard, but it was in Cuba. I think that if you're going to be a photojournalist, if you're going to be a journalist, making a difference is kind of part of your DNA. The divorce project, which was bigger and larger and ended up being a book, that I got definitely more feedback on. You know, people were writing me, they wanted copies of the book, they wanted to give it out through their organizations that were helping kids in divorce. And people would always tell me, this is such a big deal to so many people, because so many families are breaking up and remarrying and reblending, that what you're telling is so important. And that would motivate me to keep going, because that project was 7 years in the making. I went from film to digital during that project. I mean, it was, you know, lots of things changed. One of the hardest parts of being a teacher of this, of photojournalism, is reminding students that what they're holding in their hands, those cameras, are going to be different in 5 years. And all of that technology is getting better and bigger and stronger and faster. The software changes that we teach and what the students use, because that's the demands of the profession. The profession is liquid. It's changing constantly. What all of that means is that we're just finding better ways to tell stories. That content is still king or queen of what we teach at Western, and what I want to do as a storyteller. I always want to make sure that I'm not pursuing a story because of technology or because I can, because of the capabilities of the camera, but because the person who is in front of me, their story needs to be told. Through some of my stories, it's really been a level of empathy that I have been able to connect with them. I've shared and had similar experiences that they have had, and I mean, I've even cried with my subjects before because we just have hit something, you know, that's that intense. The other side of that, the true, you know, the gamut of when you think of the kind of photography a photojournalist does, is that you're in and out. You know, there's times where I get 15 minutes with a subject and have to come up with a compelling, interesting image in a real short period of time. That is a skill set, for sure. It always makes me laugh when people say, they see my pictures and they're like, "You must have a good camera." And I'm like, I have a good camera, but I have a whole lot more behind that camera. And I think that's the part behind the camera that's harder to teach. You gotta want it, because it is an exciting lifestyle to be a photojournalist. It's also can be a dangerous lifestyle, a timely lifestyle, an emotional lifestyle. And so it's rewarding, but it has a toll. You have to be with people, you have to be witness to be a photojournalist. I'm always flattered that people like my photography, that they think it's beautiful or the composition is great. But when people say, you know, I have an aunt who went through that, or I can relate to that, or my daughter's just like that, you know, when she gets all riled up. When people relate to the pictures on an empathetic level, a sympathetic level, if they look at those pictures and they can relate their own experiences, then I think I have touched them. So that's the biggest compliment you can give me on my photography, is that you relate to it, you understand it on a storytelling level.